Hi everyone, welcome to another video. I think this is going to be our video number 8, module 8 on family dynamics. At this point I start losing track of numbers, so please forgive me if I'm not saying the correct number, but it's the module on family dynamics. And before we delve into that, I wanted to take a moment to discuss a couple of administrative things. First, remember that for those of you who will be resubmitting your first reflection paper, the due date is today. I put close of business day, but if you can send it sometime today, that would be perfect. I will be grading them during the weekend, and I will be putting the final grades in Canvas as of next Monday. And then the other important aspect is I took a look at quiz number 6, and I have decided to give everyone another attempt, even though there were some of you that got a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. If you got a 10 out of 10, it won't let you retake the quiz. But for the rest of you, if you want, you can retake the quiz. The reason for that is because I realized that unfortunately the video that I uploaded last week, I misplaced it on module 8 on family dynamics, and I didn't realize until today. So I have moved that video to module 7, because in that video I gave you a couple of hints or pointers to answer the questions of the quiz on gender roles, which was quiz number 6. So I realized that very little people have watched the video, and usually I get pretty much over half the class watches my videos. So I noticed that only about 8 to 9 of you have watched them. So I want to give everyone the opportunity to retake the quiz, watch that video, and kind of follow some of the suggestions in that video. So you have an opportunity to retake it. Again, I will take a look at the quizzes next Monday. I've opened it up for everyone. Even if you haven't yet submitted your quiz, you're going to get like an extra attempt just to keep it fair for all the students. But if you did really well, you don't have to retake it. The other thing that I did is that before I decided to reopen it, I went to the quiz, and there is one question that I gave you the point, which is one of the open questions that you can write something. I think it was the question on kind of like the attributes of Marianismo, and some of you wrote self-sacrificing, other wrote that women mirror the image of the Virgin Mary, others wrote that women are the ones that take care of the household, that are nurturing, loving. I think all those possibilities were correct, but because it was like a written question, obviously if you don't write it in the specific way that Canvas I entered it into Canvas originally, then it counts it as wrong. I think that's question 7 and 8, don't quote me wrong, but I given you the point for that question, and it's on Marianismo and the attributes of women, like self-sacrifice and whatever else you put in that consolation. That's the question that I'm talking about. So I given you the point, but then still after that, I noticed there were some things that people consistently got wrong. I know there are quite a bunch of you that still haven't done quiz number 6. So just for you to know, you have another attempt aside from the usual one that you get to complete it, and I'll revisit the quiz again next week to kind of see if everyone has done better. Please let me know. This is the first time I'm doing this in Canvas. If you're not able to retake the quiz for some reason, let me know, because then I will quickly call the Canvas folks and have that issue fixed for us. And then the other thing, and the last administrative thing I'm going to talk about, is your reflection number 2. Just remember that it's coming soon, reflection number 2. So I kind of wrote a message, I think it was Thursday, Friday, clarifying a question that a classmate has. So if I keep getting those questions, if I think it can benefit the whole class, I shared my comments and insight with you. But just forget that the due date is coming soon, and that again, for that specific reflection, as well as for reflection number three, I will not be giving a second chance. I will not regrade them. So I wanted to make that clear so that you don't get used to the idea. I only did it for the first assignment because I want you to learn from the experience, and I wanted to give you also a boost in your skills and confidence and abilities. So keep in mind that's coming soon, and the same process will apply. I will take about 8 to 10 days to grade it, and then I'll share the grade with you. So for today, we're also going to be focusing our conversation on the quiz. This is going to be quiz number 7 on family dynamics. And I think I'm pretty confident that in this quiz, you're going to do way much better because pretty much all the questions are open except 2. So you got to type your responses. And my experience with you guys, and I think in general, people tend to do better when they are allowed to write a response because there's more room to be creative. And obviously you have seen that in your reflections, the vast majority of you did really well. And those who had a couple of challenges, it was because they didn't answer a specific question, not because the content of what they wrote was incorrect. So when you have open-ended questions in which you can write the answer and not select a response, that makes it easier for you to get a much better grade. But still, I kind of wanted to organize you a little bit so that you get prepared to answer quiz number 7. And I'm going to do that and then give a couple of minutes on some aspects of Familismo. So one of the things I wanted to highlight, for this quiz, I would only pay close attention to the article on Martínez Torres. And that is the article, I'm going to tell you the title correctly in a minute. The influence of family dynamics on ethnic identity among adult Latinas. This is the Martínez, Torres, White, and a couple of other authors article. Take very careful look at that. I think with that reading, you will be able to answer the whole quiz. So if you have to choose, because I know sometimes we get a little bit busy and there's a lot of reading for this and other classes, I would highly encourage you to just read carefully that reading. I'm gonna even give you a little further hint to let you know that the majority of the responses, you'll find it in the first few pages of the article. So that's my Halloween treat for you guys. You'll be able to find most of the responses, I am going to venture to say, in the first five pages of the manuscript. So take a careful look at that. Another suggestion that I wanted to give you to do better in your quizzes is, particularly with manuscripts or articles, if you download a PDF, you can see that there is like a little search tool. If you click on that search tool, like it lets you search for, like, it's like little lens, like the little lens icon. You click on it and you type a specific word. If you type one of the words that appears in the sentence of your quiz, like let's take, for example, there is one question number 4 on quiz 7 says, first generation Latino immigrants are less likely to have a strong sense of familismo as compared to second and third generations. So if you choose a word, maybe you put first generation, or maybe you put familismo in that search box, it's going to tell you where in the article that word appears. And maybe that will kind of narrow it down for you in terms of where to find the actual response to the question. So that's another trick that you can use to kind of save time and organize yourself a little bit better. I'm hoping to see much better grades in this quiz. Usually, people start doing much better after starting the midterm, which is coming this or next week, our midterm point. Start doing way much better in the quizzes, but I'm gonna make sure that I post this video in the right place. So please forgive me for that tiny mistake that I made last week, but I hope those pointers help you to do a little bit better on the quiz. And then I'm just going to delve in the remaining minutes that we have to do a little bit of discussion on family dynamics, right? So, family, we even have a variable. Latinos, we have a variable aside from machismo and Marianismo, which talk about gender roles. We also have a variable talking about family that it's very particular to the Latino context, and that is familismo or familism. So, familism is kind of like the notion or the idea that our daily lives are organized or revolved around the family structure, and that Latinos and Latinas place a high value on relationships with family, on solidarity, on respect, and on loyalty. So those are the attributes of familismo. It's a particularly close tie with close and extended family members. Now, if I may give you an example, one of the things that I tell my students to kind of help them differentiate or understand this concept a little bit better. Think about the times that you go to like a networking event or like a party or like some informal gathering. Um, in the US, I have found that, and among, I guess, US born persons, I have found that people, when they socialize, they tend to ask you first about where did you go to school, or where are you working, or what is your job, or what are you doing, or where do you go to school. In Latinos, at least for Puerto Ricans, usually you start the conversation by talking about your family. And by this, I mean someone would ask you, oh, your last name is Rivera, or your last name is Padilla in my case. Um, my family is also Padilla, and they are from this town or this part of the island. So usually we start our conversations talking about something related to our familial identity, right? So that kind of shows you a little bit of the value that we put in a very comical way, the value that we put um, on family structure for Latinas and Latinos. Families also, in our case, because of the centrality of them, play also a very important role in important life decisions and transitions of Latinos and Latinas, particularly Latina women. Come to see about it related to what we were talking about last week about gender roles. Latinas and Latinos, boys and girls, are socialized very differently in their families, right? As far as Latinas go, they're expected to be more conservative, more pure, um, to behave differently with boys, to take much care of themselves, to kind of not engage so early on in sexual activities. That's kind of the predominant message that even current generations are getting from your abuelas, grandparents, your tias, your tios, which are your uncles. So that's the primary message that you are getting. So it seems the rules of the game are a little bit different for boys and girls, and those are messages that are transmitted by our family members. Now, that gets more complicated when you are in a context of migration, because then you're going to have people who might experience living in the US in different ways. And you have, for example, as some of you shared in your reflections, children that were born in the US to parents that were born and raised in Mexico, El Salvador, Colombia, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic. And obviously, there is going to be a clash and there's going to be some conflict, particularly when they start entering into these important life phases, like getting married, going to college, um, having their first sexual encounter, um, and things of those sort. So family might have a different perspective also depending on their experience in the US. And you're going to see that sometimes the younger generations that may have been born in the US or that have lived here for many years and have absorbed or have acculturated to the US, it becomes a little bit difficult for them to navigate these transitions because of the traditional values and cultural expectations that older generations have. By older generations, I mean first generations, and by younger, I mean second, third generations of immigrants. So usually, um, older generations or first generation tend to have a stronger sense of family values versus our younger generations, which have been more exposed and open to other ideologies and ways of seeing um, the world. So it is indeed that strong sense of family and unity, while it brings a lot of support and it's an important source of guidance and nurturance, particularly in complex life transitions. It also raises a lot of problems and conflicts for younger generations because, again, they feel like they're navigating into different worlds, and because family has such an important role, and they are kind of feeling this urge and this need because they're socially conditioned to feel that the family is kind of like like a sacred space, or with family there are certain things that you have to do, like being loyal, being respectful, being deferent to them, that their current values and how they view the world may clash with how their grandparents, mothers, fathers may have a different experience in the US has, and that creates a lot of mental health related problems for clients, or social problems, right? Depression, problems with self esteem, anxiety, because they are kind of navigating different types of pressures. Not only are they kind of trying to fit in into the place that they feel part of, but because they view family as something so critical and so important in their lives, um, and family has a sacred space, it is hard for them to kind of go against what the family says. And I'm pretty sure this is the experience for many of you that are Latino, in which sometimes you start doing things because you want to please your family so badly, because you want to comply with family norms, because you want to kind of respect that space of your family. A lot of you, for example, mentioned in your reflections, either of your own personal experience or through families, how important it is for you to kind of make sure that your parents feel valued and appreciated because of all the sacrifices that they've made. And while that is wonderful, I think where it becomes more problematic is when we are trying to make important life decisions or important life transitions. Because sometimes we kind of sacrifice what we really want to do, to kind of please or maintain that family unity and structure. So keep that in mind when you're working with clients, because I think it's a very critical aspect to keep in mind, especially when we're talking about working with children and families and adolescents. Sometimes the boundaries between family members get blurry and get complicated. Sometimes there are values that are very strictly held, and we need to start working with the families to kind of adapt those views and thoughts to the place that they're currently living at. So it's kind of like an important variable to keep in mind when we're working with children, adolescents, and Latina and Latino families. Because family plays a critical role, we're going to have to pretty much gain their trust very early on, and kind of understand how important is the family space within Latina and Latino culture. So I hope this video has helped you a little bit more, and I'll be sure to be back next week with another video. Bye bye. Take care.